I want to talk about what brought me to understanding that I needed deliverance the first time I heard demons speaking in my head. So it's November 23rd, and it's 6 months ago, pretty much. May 24 was my birthday. I I sometimes, because of menopause, it started happening to me where I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I just would get up and watch TV, watch YouTube, play games on my tablet or whatever for a few hours, and then eventually, usually I go back to bed. Not always, but so I happened to be up at about 2 a.m. when I got a text from my friend's mother, and I thought, oh, she wants me to call her at 2 a.m. That's kind of weird. I thought it was a birthday greeting or something. No, it wasn't. It was something we had been somewhat anticipating, but really not at this point, because my friend had already been through 2 assaults since January from her ex, who was mentally unstable. And I'd been involved in calling the police the second attack, the first attack, she came to my house, and so on. Long story short, because it wasn't a good story, he had run her over with a car, and she wasn't, we weren't sure she was going to make it. And he had assaulted her and then run her over with a car. So, understandably, I was distraught, devastated. I was already suffering from depression. I had just put my dog down. It was 15 years old, but it's never pleasant, whatever age they are, in April, like on Easter. And this particular friend had been with me and helped me through that, so I was still depressed about that. But this traumatized me so much. I've never known anybody that I cared about like a daughter to me. She's much younger than me. That I had several codependent type relationships in my past, and this was no different, where I thought that I could somehow do something to save this person and wanted to be the protector for her. And, I'd even offered for her to move in here into my house and so on. And, anyways, so I was a mess. So I couldn't even go see her in the hospital. She was having 30 seizures a day. She was on all kinds of medication, and, she was in ICU. Um, so I was talking to the next day, I was talking to my friend, um, about it, the trauma. We were talking about trauma response and this and that, how I, had really wanted her to protect her and have her, I said if it had been me and somebody was trying to kill me, I would want anybody to come and stay with me in my house and watch over me until the person was caught. The cops were looking for him, but they weren't finding him. He was evading them and so on. So this guy was on the loose. And she thought she was safe. She thought she had the bar on the door and this and that. But this guy was full of demons. He was on some drugs, I'm sure, and so on. And he had extra, people who are on like, talk to any cop or any nurse or doctor who has seen someone psychotically possessed. They're super strong. There's a super strength and so on, right? And the person doesn't remember. They black out because it's not them. It's a demon. So I didn't really understand the demonic realm, but I kind of danced around it a little bit. I thought up to that point only people who were in the Luciferian families, who did satanic ritual abuse to their children, people who were in Hollywood who made deals with the devil. I thought that was something you did consciously and you chose to do. I did not understand that people could have demons in them, um, inadvertently, or didn't even know they had them until I heard them speak. And how this happened was, my friend I was talking to on that particular Sunday was telling me about a ketamine reset. And I had a friend on Facebook, not someone I knew well, talking about going for ketamine treatments and that was helping her with all her traumas and this and that. So I said to her, oh, when can we do this? And I said, is tomorrow too soon? And she said, no, that's fine. I'll come to your house. Well, what I didn't realize until she got here was that she actually ordered magic mushrooms. And I didn't take any time to research it, but I knew there was people who had been quote unquote reset with the mushrooms. And I always avoided it because there's schizophrenia in my family. My father's father is schizophrenic. My sister's got bipolar disorder. And I thought, ooh, I don't want to, do that. But this is how Satan takes advantage of you. When you're desperate, and I was desperate. I was absolutely desperate to be out of pain, psychological pain and torment. I had depression. I've had bouts of that on and off throughout my life, and I did not want to go on an antidepressant because I had side effects of them and so on. So I said to my brother and a few other friends, I said, I'm going to do this reset thing, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go on an antidepressant. But I didn't really think it through. I put my life in the hands of this other person and just completely trusted her. For some reason, I went completely into submission, which is not like me. I have done that multiple times in romantic relationships over the years, and this is why I stay single. I say I'm 18 years clean from a relationship because they can be addictive and they're drama and this and that and blah blah blah. And that would happen to me. I would just put myself into submission of what this person wanted from me and things like that, and be constantly in stress trying to figure out how to please them. So for some reason, I did that with this particular friend. And that's what happens when you're vulnerable. Satan takes advantage of you. So anyway, so she came to my house. She crushed up the mushroom powder and put it in some food. And like I said, I didn't do any, you know. She said she'd done this with many people and described different scenarios and this and that where it gone well. So it was a large dose, much larger than it should have been. Within 20 or 30 minutes, I was like, oh, okay, I need to go lie down. As soon as I laid down, and she had, told me to order some headphones, like noise canceling headphones, because you should be in the dark. Because she's done it herself many times by herself. And one time she had some friends over, and she said that's fine, you guys can be here. But then the noise was disturbing her, so she said, we really want it to be quiet. And she would stay here, and she would check in on me every 15 minutes or so. So I put the headphones on, and she put on some isotonic tones or something like that. But as I lay down in the dark with these headphones on, I started seeing these patterns swirling, and I was like, ooh, I do not like this. So I got up and I said, I don't like the music. And, she was trying to find some other music for me, but I was like, I'm just going to, and I was terrified to keep the lights off. So I turned the lights back on and I laid down again. And I remember her saying, you might vomit. So I thought, oh, I'm going to vomit this up as much as quickly. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this was the feeling I had. So I tried. I stuck my finger down my throat. I tried. And nothing was working. There was no way this was coming up. And I heard a voice say, swallow your vomit. I heard a voice say, this is your mess. And I submitted to the voice. And I tend to be a person, people who know me know this, I'm very cluttered. So I was seeing all the clutter in my bedroom, and of course, nobody's in my bedroom but me. But she was coming in and out, and I was feeling really self-conscious about the clutter and the dust, because I didn't dust, and I'm seeing all the dust now that the light's streaming in too, because I'm afraid to be in the dark. And I looked at the stuff, and as I was looking at that was when I heard that voice saying that this is your mess. Swallow your vomit. And I thought, this is when I started having a communication with my own thoughts, but I didn't realize yet that this wasn't my thoughts, right? I was saying, oh, am I Lucifer? Is is this the reason I'm here? This is because I was saying, is this the Matrix? And I'm in the Matrix because of my sin, because of my disobedience, because of my pride and arrogance and so on. And this is God's way of telling me this whole world is my mess. This is what happened. This destruction and this crap, everything that's negative about the world is because I disobeyed. And the voice was saying to me, oh, you think it's all about you. Ha ha ha, and stuff like that. Because I was really trying to figure it out, because it was saying to me, yes, this is the Matrix. These people that you think are your friends are not your friends. They're your spirit guides. This is all a creation that you have made up. And, if you want to get out of it, if you want the noise, I have constant ringing in my left ear. It comes and goes in frequency, intensity, and so on, but it's been there for many, many years. Also, of course, now that I don't have the the noise canceling headphones on or anything like that, I'm hearing all the noise outside. And as I'm sort of coming in and out of consciousness and stuff, it was like, if you've ever been on a bad trip, and I have been on some bad trips from marijuana and maybe some other things being laced in, I don't know in the past, but I don't normally do anything harder than that. But I've had some bad trips, and it's like whatever you're thinking or hearing is going on a loop, and it seems like it's never ever going to end. It just keeps repeating, like Groundhog Day, over and over and over again. And so I was hearing the mowing of the lawn of the neighbor, hearing cars going by, and it was just, of course, this was happening, but it seemed like it was going on a loop, and it seemed like it was going on forever. And I heard the voices saying to me, which I thought was my own voice, um, if you want the noise to end, if you want the noise to stop, your spirit guides, like, what do you need? Neon signs? These are your friends. They're telling you if you want out of here, you've got to end your life. And it used scripture against me. It said, Jesus said, whoever loves his life will lose it. He who leaves his life will find it. It said the only way out of the matrix is for you to end your life. Just let go, kind of thing. So I'm taking this seriously at this point, but not really, of course, because I didn't go up and kill myself, right? I started putting my hand over my face like I did when I was a child, and I remember my first dog that passed away. I was so devastated. I just wanted to go with him, and I was holding my hand, like this over my face, and trying to hold my breath. And of course, that doesn't really work. Eventually, I would breathe, and that's when they exposed themselves to me. I still didn't connect it, but they said, "She can't even do that right." They said, they were talking to each other. She can't even do that right. And that's when they exposed themselves. And I started saying, Jesus, please save me. Jesus, please save me. Jesus, please save me. I just kept saying that over and over again. So this thing went on for 5 hours, 2 of which I don't remember, and I don't know where I went during those 2 hours. But the the things it was saying to me, or they were saying to me, were so vile. And I used to swear quite a bit. I don't now, but at that point I swore quite a bit. And it was saying, get off your cross, you GDB. Who do you think you are, telling other people how to live their lives when you can't get your own life straight? And I was growling, you know, quite loudly, I thought. She didn't hear me. She was in the other room, but still. And that growling started when I went, about 2 years ago, I started going for a spinal wave therapy technique where you lie on your back and they tap you on your sacrum, and then this wave comes along your spine and causes relaxation. And I would start making this moaning noise, but like a growling, and she didn't seem phased by it at all. It seemed normal. I thought, well, this is really weird. Now I know that likely to be a Kundalini spirit. Not a good thing. So anyway, so I was growling, and then when I was asking it questions, or in my head also, I was laughing at myself maniacally. Now I know that's very likely Jezebel, but there's other spirits, I get demons who laugh like that, but I was just laughing at myself. And I'm sure my friend thought that I was having a good experience laughing. No, I wasn't having a good experience laughing. It was laughing at how ludicrous did I think I was, to think that I knew everything. And it kept telling me, stop questioning, stop asking questions, stuff like that. It was talking. Anyways, at one point she was coming around the corner. This was near the end now. Well, in the middle, she had gone to the bathroom or something, and I had the door open in my bedroom because I didn't want to close it. And I was like, where's she going? Kind of thing. I became very paranoid. And then she was just going to the bathroom probably, but in my mind, I thought she was going into the next room, and what was she looking into and all that kind of stuff. It was really bizarre. But I didn't get up. I was kind of paralyzed. I could not get up. I was under this spell in many ways, and I thought, is she a witch? Like all this stuff was going on, and I was, like I said, I was submitted to her. And she very well may have a witch demon in her. We don't know at this point, right? So, but at the end, when she's coming around the corner, now I'm spewing venom. I'm swearing, like horrible stuff. And she somehow didn't hear me. But as soon as I realized that she was coming around the corner, I snapped out of it. And I thought, I don't know how I knew how to do this, because I'd still been begging Jesus to rescue me and all that. I realized the venom I was spewing was what happened to my sister sometimes when she would get manic, and she'd be just, this vile stuff, this anger would come out of her. That's a demon. And I had this demon of anger too, but so I realized, oh, this is what my sister does. So as my friend is coming around the corner, I said, oh, namaste, my mother, I'm my sister, la, 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 namaste, because I knew she was in control in many ways, or at least I thought so at the time, of my freedom. And I couldn't get out of the room until I had convinced her I had a good trip. So I managed to be able to manipulate and use some deception at the end to get free because it was a beautiful sunny day. And I remember thinking, oh, I just want to go outside. I want to get out of this dark room. And so she took me outside, and then I was kind of free, but I was on a buzzed high, and I was seeing the grid in the sky, and everything looked much brighter, like and she was wanting to get me to eat, and I didn't want to eat anything. I was just like, no, 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 I'm fine. Anyways, we talked for a couple of hours as I came down from that buzz, and then she left, and I was terrified to go back in my bedroom, and I immediately sought deliverance. I didn't know I had demons until that. They were exposed during the mushroom trip. I don't think they came in during the mushroom trip. They were already there, but they certainly were exposed.